Hi, everyone. This is the Awaken As Love Podcast, and Anayza is speaking. And I'm here with a dear soul, heart, brother, mate, friend, Magnus Ahlberg. Magnus, how are you today?
I'm very good, thank you, and thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, I'm so happy you're here, and I'm really happy we're doing this together. Magnus, you want to share a bit about yourself? Oh, I'll say that we met in Sweden, I think 2 or 3 years ago. I was traveling there for a summer, and we met quite synchronistically at this uh, spirit-filled event, and we've been connected ever since.
Yeah, and I also like to add, like our first meeting, when we started to hang out, I immediately or quite early recognized that there was something special with our meeting. Stuff happened that I was not used to when I was spending time with you. So it's a special relationship in that sense, I would say.
Yeah, it's a eternal relationship.
Yeah.
For sure.
But as you said, my name is Magnus Ahlberg. I'm from Sweden. I'm 41 years old, and I've been on the spiritual path for over 20 years. It started, I guess, when I was 17 I had an awakening experience. But when I look back at it, I think it actually started before that. Even as a child, I was quite interested in God and spiritual questions. But for me, it's been for a long time. It was a search for truth and search to find out who I am, what reality is, and then some, I don't know, 10 years ago or a little more than that, perhaps, I started to really find answers and have my own experiences of truth. And for me, it's been more and more to awaken to love and to learn to how to be more present in the now, and to open my heart. That's basically what I've devoted my life to for the past 20 years.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing. And that's why Magnus is the perfect person to have on this podcast, because he so embodies the journey of awakening as love, which is what we're here doing together. And I feel in my knowing of you, your path really is of the heart.
Yeah.
And the dimensions of the heart. And yeah, it's just really beautiful to get to meet you there and to learn together and to grow together from that space of embodied unconditional love, like not just esoteric or metaphysical, but really how to bring that metaphysical into our physicality. And yeah, I really feel like that's something that we that's where we meet in that journey.
Yeah. And I really feel and have experienced that there is like a higher self that we can awaken to or discover that it's already present within us. And that higher self could be called love or God. And yeah, and I have experienced a lot of glimpses of it in different degrees, I would say. But it's, as you say, yeah, it's been a lot of awakening to love, more and more love.
Yeah, and that higher aspect, like, is our aspect, like, even in our I was talking to someone recently about the infinite and the finite selves, and like in the infinite self, we are the field of love, like we are the field of the cosmos and the existence. And then we have our finite self that has desires and wants and like has all these emotions. And as we mates, like we have as we have an interrelationship between the infinite and the finite, we
Yeah.
realize that they both are love. Like they're like neither has to have a connotation of being better or worse. There really is a relationship that is full of love.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's just such a remembrance of acceptance, like of all parts of ourselves at all times, and then just relaxing when we're not in acceptance or in aversion or whatnot, and just kind of allowing all of that to be welcome.
Yeah. It's really about looking within yourself and learn how to know yourself and to know your own pain as well. It's very important, because when you do, you awaken to self-love, which is the same as understanding everyone else and seeing everyone else's, see through the egos of everyone else and open up to unconditional love. And in the end, it's also about waking up to oneness, that we are all one. There is no me and them. It's just this consciousness behind everything. And from my experience, that consciousness is love. Yeah.
Do you want to talk more about your experiences of unity consciousness, oneness, love, God? I know you have many of them. Do you want to talk about one of your experiences?
I mean, I can go on for hours probably, but I can start. I wonder where I should start though. Maybe I should start with my first experience of this love was actually with the help of psychedelic medicine many years ago, where I had
Which one?
It was mushrooms, I think.
Okay.
Psilocybin cubensis, if I remember correctly. And I had an experience together with my brother, one of my younger brother, Tobias, where I had already been on the spiritual path for 10-15 years or something like that. So it's so as well, I had like the intellectual knowledge and some minor experiences, but I had an experience that happens to us both at the same time, at the same moment, where we kind of broke through some barrier, and just this ocean or river of love poured into me, and it was so intense, and I just woke up to a love that I couldn't even imagine before. And the feeling I had when I woke up to it was, I'm home. I woke up to something familiar. And the word I used to describe it was God, basically. But that was the first experience, and then I started to have more experiences where I started to realize that God is not something separate from me. It's within me. It's within everyone. It's our own nature. And more my experiences have become, that was like the starting point of my experiences, and then they have kept on happening, and they have different aspects to them, but it might be hard to grasp sometimes, because my experiences are very much like, I'm starting to more and more experience that I step out of my personality. It's still like an I, but I step out of time, I step out of separation, and even though I'm still in my body, even though I'm still in the dualistic experience, I simultaneously have a oneness experience where I'm outside of time and space, connected to everything, and within that, my body is taking place, and everything else, like everything I experience, is within this love, this greater self. In fact, everything I experience as external is a reflection of that higher self, which is love. the divine love, the divine self. And for me, the word divine or God is so central because what I experience can only be described as divine. It's so beautiful, it's so loving, and it includes everything. Uh, there's no separation, there's no judging, there's no, and within that, everything, judgment and good, bad can take place within that, but that in itself does not judge or have it's just love. It embraces everything. And I'm still having these experiences back and forth. Um, I started to use psychedelics in the beginning. Then I went to India some years ago, and then I started to have these experiences without the help of psychedelics. It started at the ashram of the Indian saint Neem Karola Baba or Maharaji. He died in the 70s, I think. I had an experience of him and then I had another experience the day after at another saint's ashram it was called Hyrakan Baba. And after that, it started happening without the help of psychedelics. And I have a lot of strong experience like this with you, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's been a journey. It is a journey, still happening, of course. But in the beginning, I was very interested in like how everything worked and the complexity of it all. But more and more, it's been becoming simpler, and just boiling down to it's just about love. And that's the beauty of it. I think it's becoming more intimate, more. But at the same time, it is the complexity is there as well. But that's not at the heart of it, I would say. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I felt as if I could see what you're saying as you're going along. And I thought it was interesting when you said, I also had the experiences with you, because whoever's listening, like the you could be anyone.
Yeah,
I had that
Anayza.
moment of like complete the solution. Like, oh, you is like everything and every like, yeah. So that was cool to sort of dissolve the understandings around the identity and the pointer, like the
And it's very much about presence, I would say. Presence and love, and they are one, of course, in the end. But my main practice, spiritual practice, is practicing to be present, be here, and opening my heart. Those two paths. Because it's in the present moment you will discover and recognize this love and this higher self. And the more you go into the present moment, you have to let go of thoughts and concepts and ideas and all of that stuff. The ideas, the concepts, creates an illusionary view of the reality. We put labels on the reality instead of just experience the reality as it is. And we need to get back into the moment to allow ourselves to discover reality as it is right now.
Yeah, because in the moment there is infinity. So when we have a connotation of what a moment is, we have ideas and identities, and it's like weighted with like connotations that may have been present another moment but may not be present now. And the more we allow ourselves to be in the now moment, it's sort of allowing ourselves to be within a paradoxical experience where there is the concept of past, like that, like within this present moment, there might be shades or nuances that we can taste that we have experienced before. But
Mm-hmm.
actually, like in the true dissolution, it's like always then I heard once, like from my, like in meditation, there's only one present moment,
Yeah.
because because in the one present moment there is all of time.
Yeah.
And so such yeah, it's such a paradoxical experience, and it's not really one for the mind, because
Mm-hmm.
it's a sensory
Yeah.
experience, like in our body, that we allow ourselves to be softer and softer and softer,
Yeah.
and lean into the greater essence of ourself, while still being within the physicality of ourself.
Yes.
And it is such a practice, and it's funny that we have to practice something that always is never not is. But
Mm-hmm.
the way our mind can work is like we can be on our perception can allow us to invest in illusions that keep us out of knowing that which
Mm.
already is here.
Yes.
And it's such a I've been feeling in my own interrelations, or just like what's happening, the response is just to love myself more, and to let love weave the fabric of my existence, and to
Mm.
not really position myself in any knowing other than one of love, like love for self and love for other, and receive, like just, and I and even and so when something comes up and I'm wondering, like, how do I honor my present moment and still be aware of other people or what's here? And it's just love, like let
Mm.
love like be in the position of love, and then let love lead.
Yeah.
And it's such a beautiful practice, because at once in that moment I'm full, like I'm full, I've received, I'm in the receiving, and I'm in the giving, and I'm in that flow. And then
Yes.
it's just that, and it's like that constant like inhalation, like constant inhalation of love, and like exhalation of love, and like
Yes.
letting that letting love breathe us, love,
Mm.
and letting ourselves breathe love. And it's interesting, I'm saying that word a lot, and we're both saying the word love a lot, and it's so beautiful. But I think, but another, and like I love how you put in presence, because another way to say that is to be present in this now moment, like in this now moment, what's true. Like, I mean, for most of us in this now moment, if we're worrying or if we're thinking about anything, what's true is that we're here sitting, like that.
Yes.
I mean, or we're here standing, or we're here walking, or we're here washing dishes, or we're here, like we're just like in this now moment. There's a lot of the things that are in our mind just actually aren't in our present reality. And I
Yes.
feel like when we step away from the thought to the mind and be just where our present reality is, that's the only way we can open up to the cosmic mind and receive an inspiration to respond to externality from a state of like being ourselves, like being in contact with ourselves.
Yeah. And the spiritual path is, it's paradoxical, as you said, and it's a lot of going back and forth into duality, and then we have experience of oneness, and back to duality. And one key realization I had was the realization of pain and suffering, what it is and what it's there for, and what, because pain and suffering, our own suffering, is actually love. And that's it's so, because I think that most people on the spiritual path are on the spiritual path because they're suffering and they want to end their suffering. Everyone wants to end their suffering. Everyone wants to be happy, and there is no way to be truly happy if you do not look at your own suffering. It's because the true reality is oneness, and as long as we avoid our suffering, we are avoiding oneness, and we are avoiding something that is present within ourselves. And one realization I had was that my own suffering is the proof that I love myself, because I wish my suffering shows me that I want to be happy, that I love myself, that I want better for myself. So suffering itself is self-love. It sounds kind of weird and paradoxical, but if you really look at it closely and you realize that you suffer because you want to be happy,
Mm-hmm.
and that's self-love. You
Mm-hmm.
love it, you want to be happy, and the reason you are not happy is because you have an idea of what you need in life to be happy, but it's so it's the idea that makes you unhappy, but still it reveal within these illusion, within the suffering, actually truth is hidden, but you need to look at it closely, and meditation is a great practice for that. For instance, to sit with
Mm-hmm.
your suffering and be present with it and start to spend time with it, and open up to it and let it be there. Acceptance is a type of love, of course. Um, so I felt I wanted to add that aspect as well when we were talking about love and self-love.
Mm-hmm.
It's
That's so beautiful.
yeah.
Yeah, because our, as I know for myself, my personal suffering, or I wouldn't call it so, I wouldn't call that, I'll just say my personal pain is a call of my own love. Like when
Mm-hmm.
I feel pain, I'm calling for the love of myself to be
Yes.
to be more to be more. And when I sit in that, it's funny because this morning I was saying before we start recording, just that I'm having a lot of realizations because I am sitting, I just sat in meditation a lot this morning. And as I go into the experience, I just notice aversion, resistance, places that the past has caused pain. And then I'm just uh, returning to myself. So the part aspect of myself that may be needing or wanting externally, I'm just bringing it back into myself and just really feeling it. And in the moment, maybe there's feelings of discomfort or weirdness, but then as I have to like look at my phone, or I had to go into the door, or I had to go do something, I feel very bright and I feel very awake and I feel very aware and I feel very good. And I'm like, it's so funny. I mean, I know this of course, but it's funny, like when we sit in pain, we're actually able to emerge in light. We're able to emerge in wholeness, even though in the moment we're feeling not so good. And it might not happen immediately. We're all on
Mm-hmm.
different places of our journey. And, I think we've both experienced sitting in pain for a very long time, for years, like for a
Yes.
very
Yes.
long time,
Oh
and
yeah.
not,
Many
and not
years.
kind of, yeah, many years, and not popping out into light, but to know that it's present, like that's it. And I do feel the only way to come into the awakeness is to like go through the depths of our inner dark, and like even we'll realize that perception is because the dark is the channel. So like the birth canal, like the birth canal is dark, like the
Yeah.
transitions are dark, but the dark is wondrous, the dark is dazzling, and it's only through
Yes.
that we can really merge, or we can emerge and merge. And
Yeah.
I begin to love the dark. I begin to love the dark places that might have discomfort, because I know I'm emergent. Like it's a part of
Yes.
my process of expanding bigger and deeper and more profundly as myself here in
Yeah.
this manifest world.
Yeah.
So it's definitely another stage of the journey. I know I've spent a lot of time not liking the dark, like, and I still
Yeah.
go through phases of that. But it's just we're able to have a different perspective and perception of everything that we ever have, and I think that's really beautiful. What you mentioned that suffering is a form of self-love, and that whole part I feel is really poignant, because can we reframe concepts that we've had to another enlightened, like to bring the light and expand and to open. How can we perceive ourselves from a different vantage point that leaves us
Yeah.
feeling like liberated and empowered?
Yeah. And there's so many aspects to it. You need to, I think I recognized quite early that I need to look at the suffering that I'm in and the pain. And it's been a long process to look at it, but very rewarding, because I started to recognize that it was self-love in its core. And also the suffering also opens up to a greater love, a love that can embrace horrors in the world, that is actually able to love everything no matter what, how ugly it is. And also, one very important aspect that that everyone at some point will have to look to is honesty, truth, to be
Yeah.
truthful to oneself, like take responsibility to who you are and what you do, and also give yourself some slack for, because everything you have ever done that's been wrong, so to speak, you have done it in because you want to be happy, but you have had very strange ideas on how to become happy, like hurting others, or being egoistic. But people are egoistic because they want to be happy, but it doesn't work. But everyone, that's something you will start to notice. So starting to pay attention to oneself's pattern and to be present. When you're present, you will start to notice that when I do this, these consequences happens, and I get a reflection that reflects my actions or intentions. So you start to notice that if I'm going to, you are forced to be very honest about who you are, and then you will start to shape into a more loving expression of yourself, because that's the only thing that works. um, for instance, one advice that I'm going to mention, the Indian saint named Karol Baba, that where I had my experience at his ashram. He told one of his Western devotees that love everyone and tell the truth. And I started to reflect on what it meant to tell the truth, like always speaking the truth. It's very hard, but I realized when I started to think about and reflect on what it would mean to always tell the truth is that whenever I have the urge to lie, that's a reminder for me that I'm doing something that I don't really stand for. That I can't. I'm doing something that I don't want people to know because it's not lovingly. You know, I'm not doing it from love. And I realized that if I'm going to tell the truth always, I need to act from love, because I will always be able to stand up for who I am truthfully if I always do it with love. That's the only way to speak the truth and stand up for myself and feel good about it. And I can even, if you talk and act from love, I think if you do it truthfully, you can even die, like Jesus did, or it's so true that you are willing, you can even give your life for that truth, because there's nothing else. It's so true that it's yeah, it's hard to explain that kind of love. It's when you discover the purest form of the unconditional love, it's a love worth dying for, you know. It's so powerful. And of course you also realize the deeper you go that you don't die, but that's another, but that's like, I guess that's where I am at the moment. Like, I have had so many experiences that we live, that we can, what we are cannot die, but still the fear of death is like at the core of it all. And that's also something I think everyone on the spiritual path eventually will have to face, death. And one thing I realized also, I think this was during meditation, is that we're dying every moment, and we are also born every moment simultaneously. Every
Mhm.
I remember. I think I'm jumping between subjects here. I hope it's possible to follow my the thread here. But I remember an experience, a meditation experience. I was at a Vipassana retreat, and I realized that every moment, every experience I have is impossible to grasp, because it dies the moment it appears. It fades away and is replaced by another moment that instantly dies and is replaced by another moment. So every experience dies the same moment it's created.
Mhm.
And I realized that death and birth are always present within us and in everything
Mhm.
at the same time.
Yeah.
They are actually the same thing.
Mhm.
But I guess I'm at the moment, this is at an intellectual understanding,
Mhm.
partly experience as an experience. But I mean, I guess I would be frightened if someone tried to kill me, and might panic and all that. So it's not fully integrated yet. So I still have some work to do.
Mhm. Yeah, I feel like that, like die now. You know, that phrase and what we're talking about is
Mm-hmm.
what you brought up is it's easy to say cognitively, but it's a whole process of deep remembrance, like cellular remembrance, to
Mm-hmm.
really embody that. And when you're speaking about you could die for that love, it's also there's an element of being so immersed as existence that
Mm-hmm.
you don't perceive non-existence.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a way you can be like like and as just another phrase, I'm just like rephrasing what you said with a different word,
Yeah.
because I realize as you're saying the word love, I wonder, how does that land for the person listening? Like how, because I think that our language is very limited in the expressions that we are talking about, and
Yeah.
language is a pointer to an experience that's much beyond. Like if you imagine love to be quantum sacred geometry, that's a
Mm-hmm.
start, right? Like
Yeah.
it's so beyond the word. It really is molecular, atomic. It's like the air we're breathing and letting go. If we can imagine our bodies as a full breathing organs, if we can imagine our whole body as a heart, you
Yeah.
know, I feel like we can start reframing these ideas that it's like we like the whole thing is an operation of love, and you can say the whole thing is
Mm-hmm.
operation of existence. And when you know, and when you are so in the knowing of that, I feel the polarity and the duality isn't a problem, but the ones that are being asked for in contemporary context on the geopolitical plane right now, you don't have to engage with them, because you're not afraid that one of idea will take you into or out of existence. You realize
Yeah.
that all ideas and all ways of thinking are a part of this existence, and you don't have to actually fight or prove anything, because your existence isn't connotated on one belief.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that is such a vital place to look at anything that's happening right now from. And it's not that there isn't social justice or something that we should speak for, but it's like, where are we speaking for it from? Because if we're speaking for it from our own fear of death, then we're actually just perpetuating death, and like the fear of it, rather we're perpetuating the fear of death and the fear of just fear, like just. And
Mm-hmm.
once again, none of this is actually a problem. Fear isn't a problem. Fear is included in
Yeah.
love. Duality is included in non-duality. Nothing is a problem. But if we
Exactly.
can temper ourselves, like kind of, I feel it like if we're gauges, and if we can allow ourselves to come into like a flow that's and it's like all the ways, it's up and down, side to side. There's a way I feel like we can approach these things from a state that puts into our environment more understanding of existence and life and flow, instead of war and fighting. And
Yeah.
that process starts from the individual, and I think that's why like we're talking, and some people talking about like to love the self is to love everyone. Like, and it's truly true. It's truly true. I had an experience just yesterday. I actually had a friend that was supposed to come visit in Peru, and at first I was like, yeah, of course, come visit me. And then I was like, oof, I really don't feel for you to come and visit. Like, I don't know why. And I'm really in my own thing. And I felt, of course I felt bad, but my intuition was clear. And I was like, I'm sorry. And she was like, okay, I understand. I haven't talked to her for a bit. And I just heard from her yesterday. Her birthday's today, which is lovely. And she's in Costa Rica going to a retreat. And she said, thank you, because I actually wasn't listening to myself. Like, this retreat was really calling me. And because I said no to her coming here, she's actually there. And to me, that was such a beautiful reflection of like, when I am in my highest truth, I am automatically in the highest truth of all. Automatically. And I don't have to know the details in every single moment. And it might feel like I'm being selfish. I might feel all these weird things. And I do, but I have so many examples of this that I have to start to trust that when I'm in there's one highest good. There's one. It's one. And it's so when we're operating in it, we're actually operating in it for everyone. And so, but the only way to experience it is first through ourselves, through our individuation, coming into. That's why it's like God is within all of us, God, nature, and God is everywhere. It's also because it's one. So when we tap into it in one, it's collective, like automatically it's collective. And so, it's just beautiful. It's just really, it's great.
And I think I like to add, like, we also need to be honest, like we're not always connected with the flow and the oneness and the love and all that. So we don't pretend to be something or somewhere we are not. So because I just talking from my own personal experience, but if I go back 10 years or something, 15 years on my spiritual path, I was doing a lot of love everyone and I love myself. But then like 10 years later, I realized I wasn't loving myself. I wasn't loving everyone. I was just lying to myself and everyone else. So I started to realize, okay, I need to be honest and admit that I don't know how to love myself and how to love everyone. And from there I started to really learn how to love. But my advice is to be honest to yourself and others as good as you can. I mean, it's not always easy, but also to stay on the path, to honestly, to don't give up, to stay on the spiritual path, to do the practice, to come back to the now, to working on yourself, and it will work out. It's a process, and there will be ups and downs along the way, but eventually we will start to notice the progress. There will start to be moments where we are connected to all of this that you and I are talking about, and it's true, and it's living, and as you said, like have had many experiences where when I connected my deeper self to source, I am prior to existence and non-existence. It's not even about death or life anymore, because source is before the concept of death and life, existence, non-existence. And from source point of view, it's just creation. It's just a dance. But to be honest, to stay on the path, I think that's like I'm not feel that I have to give advice, but still, like I would like to give that advice to everyone that's on the spiritual path, to like stay there, keep on going. It's worth it.
Another phrasing or word I've been using for myself is like to be direct. Is another way of saying be honest. Like I'm really direct with how I'm feeling, and I just say it to myself. I don't automatically say it to another person, but if I feel jealous or resentful or whatever I'm feeling, I'm really direct with myself for it. And to what you're saying, like, how do we love ourselves? It is to be honest, and it's to be honest about the times we say no and feel yes, whatever we're feeling. Like, that is self-love. And I think so, like for my example with my friend, if an idea of loving is for me to say, yes, of course, come, and like I'm supposed to be inviting, I'm supposed to like, I'm supposed, but no, my response was like, I just don't feel like it's the time. And that's what I said, and that's not maybe a concept of like how you're supposed to be good or kind.
Yeah.
But I was honest in like, and even though it was uncomfortable, I like, it's not comfortable to love yourself. It's not comfortable to be honest, but we have to do it anyway. And that's kind of the thing. And like, and yeah. And I think because sometimes we're uncertain, or because sometimes it feels like sometimes it feels like we're going against the system, or like fix of thought, like we're supposed to, and we should. And the moment we don't do that because we really don't want to, it's discomfort in the body, because the neurons in our body are literally freaking out, thinking we're about to die. I mean, it really is like, that's actually the feeling in our body. It's this tense, because we are in that moment dying to who we've been, and being reborn to who we truly are. And that's like literally what happens and like, so it feels that way. And it's like, and it doesn't like stop feeling that way. You just start to understand like, I guess I'm just expanding into myself. Like I personally I perceive it and recognize what's happening, but it doesn't mean the feeling's automatically gone. I completely understand all the time. No, it's a choice. And so it's kind of what you're saying, to stay on the path. Every day we have to choose to be radically ourselves, because it's a radical act, to be honest. It's not an easy act. It's not like,
no, because we're not used to it. We're really not used to it. As you said, like if a friend wants to come by, the idea of love is that to say yes, but that might not be love, because if you don't want to. So to be honest is, and something I noticed, I have a spiritual friend called Nicholas, and he's been in many ways a teacher, and he taught me just what you're talking about. Like he was very direct, and I always felt like he was rude because he said what he wanted in a very direct manner, in a way that I wasn't used to, because people don't behave like that,
Yeah.
And I was like, why are you doing this? Like, be normal. you're making me uncomfortable. And he was like, no, I'm not. You are uncomfortable because you're uncomfortable with standing up for what you want and do not want. If you don't want me to come, say it. Be comfortable with it. Don't come up with excuses and I can't do this week, and come up with these little white lies and all that stuff, that everyone does. Everyone do this, like, because they're not comfortable in telling their truth. And what I noticed was that, and I usually became angry at him, and I realized that I wasn't angry at him. I was angry because he was challenging me. He was forcing me to take a truthful decision that I wasn't comfortable in taking. But as soon as I was started to look, he was forcing me to look within, what do I want first, and look at what do I want, and why do I want it, and he taught me to look at things within me, like, why do I want things, and why do I not want other things, and start to look at the options and be more relaxed in what I want and don't want. And as soon as I could relax and know my reasons for because I wasn't even aware many times why I wanted something and did not want other things. But when I knew that deeply, I could say that to people in a relaxed way. And for the most part, when I was very relaxed and confident in what I wanted and why, it was no problem to me to deliver that in a loving way, because I knew why. And it wasn't about them. It's not about it's not that I have a problem. It's because there are deeper reasons that stem out of love. But we need to look inside and know ourselves to be able to tell the truth. So it's very uncomfortable in the beginning to be direct, because, and it's it's because we are not really used to it, and we don't even know sometimes why we want and do not want certain things. So we really need to look inside and learn to know ourselves. And
Mm-hmm.
when we are comfortable with who we are and what we want and do not want, it's not a big problem to tell others. We will start to find ways where we can do it in a very loving way. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I really love it, and I had a really long process with that, where I was angry at Niklas a lot for a time. He had great patience with me. I think I have to thank him for that. Yes, yeah.
Mm. Mm. I just want to emphasize, because there's a part of me there's like a other side advocate I want to speak to, but I
Mm-hmm.
also just want to emphasize, because what you're saying, to know ourselves, right? And then it's like, I mean, that's a whole tangent we're not going to go into, maybe next time we talk, but just to say, but like, who are we, and how do we learn, how do we begin to know ourselves? That's a whole thing, because what we're speaking about is from knowing ourselves. It's like, it's truly from that. And then the
Mm-hmm.
other, to share that lovingly, because I think there's a lot of examples that people can tell their truth, quote unquote, but it's like rude. I mean, not the way you're saying it, but as in a way, it's like actually disregard of another. See, the way Nicholas held you was in true regard to he was doing it from love. He was doing it from a higher consciousness. So he was like
Mm-hmm.
in true regard to himself and to you. But there are other ways that people can do that. That's like not, it's like actually coming from their own pain or trauma or just
Yeah.
something like this. So I guess I'm just naming that because that's nothing that's ever true is true all the time. Like there is a
Mm-hmm.
capital T truth, but how we express that in our individuation is always going to be different, right? So someone
Yeah.
can be saying quite not nice things, or like being not nice to people, and it's like their truth at that moment, but it's actually violent, it's actually causing violence. And so I guess
Yeah.
I'm just saying that because I feel like even on the spiritual path, I think there are many ways that people can think they're standing in confidence, but they're standing in narcissism, or their spiritual
Mm-hmm.
ego, or they're standing in immaturity. They're just and the only way to really notice that is to deeply, once again, be honest, be direct, and know yourself, and to really wonder, to actually, is love speaking? Like, what would love do? Like, what would love
Yeah.
say? Like, what would come into your heart? Because if you come into your heart, you might, like, your response might be different than your immediate response, and it will be of true kindness. Like, and that, once again, true kindness isn't always being nice, isn't always saying yes, it isn't always doing
Mm-hmm.
what you think you're supposed to do. True kindness is evolutionary. It really allows us to be in evolving states. So
Yeah.
I'm I'm wanting to name that.
And it's also, I feel a lot about when you start to look within and look at your own feelings and reactions, you start to notice over time that we are projecting a lot of our own stuff on others, like blaming others for our own stuff. And when you start
Yeah.
to look, you start to take responsibility for what you feel and why you feel, and not projecting as much, and you start projecting less and less. So I guess, like, if someone gets angry or hurt someone and they feel it's true, it might be because they haven't looked deep enough. Because if they would look within, even at a deeper level, they might notice, I'm not actually angry at that person, I'm angry at myself, or
Yeah.
and stuff like that. But there's no quick way to learn this. It's just going within again and again, and you will peel off layer by layer, and you will find more stuff, and then you're just peeling and peeling. And
Yeah.
it's the way it is. It's a slow process, and can go quick sometimes. And there's ups and downs, but it's just keep peeling, I guess.
Yeah. It's a spiral path. It
Mm-hmm.
truly is a spiral path. And when we acknowledge it as such, there's a relaxation into what is present, that it's that, things we have met will meet again in a deeper
Mm-hmm.
way, a different nuance, different flavor, because we're
Yeah.
meant to. And yeah, just sort of trusting the unraveling of your own life. And something I like to say is that living is healing. To really live is to heal.
Yeah.
So that's what we're doing with each breath. We're healing and we're remembering.
Yeah. And
So I just want to, do you have I just want to say thank you so much for coming
mm,
on the podcast. And well, the way am phrasing this is that I'll have guests on 2 or 3 times, and
Mm-hmm.
Magnus and I are such close beings that he'll probably be on many times, because I love talking to you, but I do feel we shared a lot in
Yeah.
this time, and that we can start to come to a close. So is there any last words that you want to share for this time around?
Yeah. One major realization I had, and that I think is important to share, is that I realized at one point that I have always done my best, even when I've been acting like an asshole, because I didn't knew better at the time. So give yourself some slack. I mean, you can always do better now when you know better, but not really like carrying all the old mistakes. I mean, you did your best,
Yeah.
and you're gonna make mistakes again, but learn from
Mm-hmm.
them and be a better person today. That's all we can do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's always time. You can always say sorry, whether
Yeah,
energetically or literally calling that person. There's
yeah,
always a
yeah.
way to, like, yeah, I mean, just allowing grace, like really allowing grace, and to let that grace evolve us forward.
Hmm. Yeah.
All
You
right.
can always say I'm sorry. That's great.
Yeah. Is there anything you want to share in terms of if people want to find? I know you've written books and things, so like,
Oh
is there
yeah,
any can you
I have.
share that?
I have written a book called The Illusion, uh, a personal journey towards spiritual awakening. It's on Amazon. My brother Tobias have also written a book called Stepping into the Unknown, where we share our. I mean, I think that book was written in 2014, so a lot have happened since then. But it's a lot of experience. I describe a lot of experiences there, and Tobias as well. I also written another smaller book called A Book About Love and Happiness. It's a free ebook you can find on Amazon as well, for instance. Me and my brother have a website called maldorma.com, where we have some material that might be interesting for someone, I guess. We have I mean, you can find our books there. We have a podcast, by the way, Maldorma TV, on YouTube and on Spotify and on our website, so forth and so on.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you can find some stuff if you're interested.
Beautiful. So I'll put some of those links below in the description so people can find
Yeah,
you.
I think the easiest way is to go to our website, because there
Yeah.
everything is there.
Yeah.
You can
Great.
find everything there. Yeah.
Yeah, and you can also find more about me at anayza.com, anayza.com. And and if you're interested in sort of meeting yourself through the lens we're talking about, I invite you to book a consultation or to book a session with me. And I'll put the link in the bottom as well. And just let me know that you found me through this podcast. So deep love and blessings to all of you. Thank you if you've listened this far. It's deeply appreciated. And I look forward to continue sharing with you. And I look forward with Magnus also to continue sharing with you. So yeah, thank you. And we're all on this path together. We truly
Yeah.
are.
Thank you.